Ariel Bennett was 34 years old and lived in Seattle, Washington. By day, she was the chief financial officer of an upscale interior design firm downtown. By night, she was the wife of Darius Bennett, her college sweetheart of 11 years and husband of 6. For most of their marriage, Ariel believed they were solid. Not perfect, but steady. She trusted him the way you trust gravity. That changed one quiet Tuesday morning. While brushing her teeth, she noticed Darius's phone light up on the bathroom counter. A message preview glowed against the marble. "Can't wait for this weekend. The lake house. The red wine. And that satin dress." Ariel froze. Behind the shower door, Darius hummed casually. In that moment, the marriage she thought she knew shifted beneath her feet. Ariel didn't unlock the phone. She didn't need to. The words were enough. For months, Darius had been distant. Sudden conferences in Portland. Late-night emails. His phone now traveled everywhere, even into the shower. She had blamed stress. "He's building his career," she told herself. When Darius stepped out, tying his tie, he smiled. "Big seminar this weekend," he said lightly. "I'll be gone until Sunday." Ariel dabbed foundation under her eyes. "Drive safe," she replied evenly. He leaned down to kiss her forehead. "You're my rock," he said. She nodded, watching him in the mirror. He looked the same. Confident. Composed. But something inside her had cracked open. She would not argue. Not yet. She needed facts. That Thursday night, Darius returned from tennis smelling of sweat and whiskey. He fell asleep quickly, breathing deep and heavy. Ariel waited until the house was silent. Her heart pounded as she gently lifted his hand and pressed his right index finger to the phone sensor. The screen unlocked. Her stomach dropped. The messages stretched back 7 months. Her name was Simone Carter. 38. Married. Medical sales executive in Tacoma. There were photos of hotel rooms, flirty voice notes, and plans for the lake house. One message read, "Malik will be in San Diego all week. We're clear." Ariel whispered the name Malik under her breath. Another man living inside the same lie. Another life about to break open. The next morning, Ariel searched for Malik Carter online. He was 41, a residential architect with his own small firm. His profile photo showed kind eyes and a tired smile. She stared at it for a long time. "You deserve to know," she murmured. She typed and erased a message several times before sending it. "Hello, my name is Ariel Bennett. I believe our spouses are involved. I have evidence if you're willing to talk." 3 hours later, her phone rang. "This better not be a prank," Malik said, his voice steady but strained. "I wish it were," Ariel replied. "They're planning to meet at the lake house this weekend." Silence filled the line. Then Malik asked quietly, "What do you want to do?" "I want them to see us," Ariel answered. "Together. Before they open that wine." Malik exhaled slowly. "No screaming," he said. "No violence. Just truth," she agreed. They decided to meet Saturday morning at a small cafe halfway between Seattle and the lake house. Ariel arrived early, palms sweating despite the cool air. When Malik walked in, she recognized him instantly. Tall, reserved, carrying quiet exhaustion. He sat across from her without small talk. She slid her phone over. As he scrolled through the messages, his jaw tightened. When he reached a photo of Simone standing barefoot on the lake house deck, he shut his eyes. "I designed that deck," he whispered. Ariel swallowed. "I decorated it." They sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Malik said, "I still have a spare key to the house. Simone doesn't know." Ariel nodded slowly. "Darius thinks I'll be at a client retreat in Spokane." Malik looked at her carefully. "Are you sure about this?" She met his gaze. "I'm sure about the truth." They agreed to arrive before 6, the time Simone's message mentioned. Sunday afternoon felt colder than expected. Pine trees framed the quiet lake. Ariel stepped inside the house with Malik and felt a sharp twist in her chest. She had once believed this place held memories of healing after a miscarriage 3 years earlier. Now it felt like a stage for betrayal. They arranged the living room deliberately. 4 wine glasses. 1 unopened bottle of red wine Simone had mentioned in a message. Ariel placed printed screenshots neatly on the table. Malik stood by the window staring at the water. "Do you think they love each other?" he asked suddenly. Ariel considered the question. "I think they love being admired," she replied. He nodded. "Simone always said I was too quiet." Ariel gave a small, humorless smile. "Darius said I was too busy." The clock ticked loudly on the wall. At 5:58 p.m., they heard tires crunch on gravel. Ariel's heart raced, but her face stayed calm. "Ready?" Malik asked. "I've been ready," she answered. The front door opened. Simone walked in first, laughing, holding a bouquet of white lilies. Darius followed behind her carrying a suitcase. Their smiles vanished instantly. "Ariel," Darius breathed. Simone's eyes darted to Malik. "What is this?" she whispered. Ariel stood slowly. "Welcome," she said evenly. "We thought we'd join your weekend." Malik stepped forward, voice controlled. "Simone, explain." Darius ran a hand over his face. "This isn't what it looks like." Ariel tilted her head. 7 months of messages. Hotel receipts. The lake house key code. "Tell me what it looks like." Simone's flowers slipped from her hand, petals scattering across the floor like something fragile breaking apart. Simone covered her face. "Malik, I can explain." He didn't move toward her. "Then explain," he said quietly. Darius looked at Ariel. "I never stopped loving you." Ariel laughed softly. "Love doesn't book cabins." She pushed the folder across the table. "You lied about Portland. You lied about overtime. You lied about everything." Darius flipped through the pages, anger rising. "You went through my phone?" "I verified the truth," she replied firmly. Malik's voice cut in. "How long?" Simone hesitated. 7 months. The room felt smaller, tighter. Darius looked stunned, as if betrayal only mattered when it reflected back at him. A heavy silence settled between them. Malik finally asked, "Was any of it real?" Simone wiped her tears. "I felt lonely," she admitted. Ariel crossed her arms. "So you borrowed my husband?" Simone winced. Darius stepped closer to Ariel. "We can fix this." She stepped back. "No. You can't fix something you never protected." Malik's voice grew steadier. "Simone, I trusted you." She lowered her eyes. "I know." Ariel looked around the room, once filled with promise. "This is where I lost our baby," she told Darius quietly. His face drained of color. "You brought her here anyway." The weight of that truth settled heavier than anything else said that night. Darius opened his mouth, but no words came out. Ariel's voice remained steady. "You didn't just cheat. You desecrated something sacred." Simone sank into a chair, trembling. Malik stood rigid beside the window. "Answer her," he told Darius. "Why here?" Darius rubbed his temples. "It was convenient. Neutral." Ariel's laugh was sharp. "Neutral. This is where we grieved our child." The room went silent. Simone looked up slowly. "You never told me that," she whispered to Darius. He avoided her eyes. Malik shook his head. "So even your fantasy was built on lies." Ariel inhaled deeply. She hadn't come to scream. She came to end something. "We're done," she said clearly. "Completely done." Darius stared at her. "You don't mean that." Ariel met his gaze without blinking. "I've already spoken to an attorney." Simone's head snapped up. Malik looked at Ariel with surprise. "You planned this?" he asked quietly. "I planned my exit," she replied. Darius scoffed. "You're overreacting." Ariel's composure cracked just slightly. "Overreacting? You built a second relationship while sleeping in my bed." Malik stepped closer to Simone. "And you told me you were working late," he said. Simone whispered, "I felt invisible." Malik's voice softened but remained firm. "So you made me the fool?" Ariel picked up her bag. This isn't about feelings anymore. It's about consequences. Darius's frustration turned desperate. Ariel, think about everything we built. She nodded slowly. I am. She placed a second folder on the table. The house is in my name. The majority of our investments are protected. You signed a post-nuptial agreement after your gambling debt 6 years ago. Simone blinked. Gambling. Malik turned to Darius sharply. You didn't tell her? Ariel continued calmly. $42,000. Your parents covered it. Darius glared. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with trust, Ariel replied. Simone looked at Darius like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. You said Ariel controlled the money because she was cold. Ariel folded her arms. I controlled it because I had to. Malik exhaled slowly. Simone, is there anything else I don't know? Simone hesitated. Her silence stretched too long. Ariel watched carefully. Darius stiffened. What now? He muttered. Simone finally spoke, voice shaking. I was going to tell you this weekend. Malik's expression darkened. Tell me what? Simone pressed a hand against her stomach. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air like a sudden storm. Ariel felt her breath leave her body. Darius's eyes widened. Pregnant. Simone nodded. Malik's voice barely rose above a whisper. Is it mine? Simone swallowed hard. Yes. I'm sure. Darius took a step back as if struck. The confrontation had shifted into something no one anticipated. Malik turned away, hands shaking. A child, he murmured. Simone began crying openly. I never meant for any of this. Darius ran a hand through his hair. This changes things, he said quietly. Ariel looked at him sharply. For you, maybe. Simone looked at Malik desperately. I want to keep the baby. Malik closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his voice was steadier. The child didn't ask for this. Ariel felt something inside her finally detach. The pain was still there, but it no longer owned her. This isn't my burden anymore, she said. Darius looked at her. Ariel, please. She shook her head. You made your choices. The room felt heavier, yet clearer. Malik sat down slowly. Simone, we will discuss the pregnancy later. But tonight, we finish this truth. Simone nodded weakly. Darius turned to Ariel again. We can go to counseling. Ariel's expression softened, but only slightly. Counseling is for people who made mistakes. You built a second life. He whispered, I was lonely. She replied calmly, so was I. But I stayed faithful. Malik stood again. 7 months, he repeated, looking at Simone. 7 months of lies. Simone whispered, I'm sorry. Malik's voice was tired now. Sorry won't erase it. Ariel picked up her keys. There's nothing left to say. They stepped outside into the cool evening air. The lake was still, reflecting the fading sun. Ariel inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the past few hours settle into something firm and final. Malik joined her on the porch. Are you okay? He asked gently. She nodded once. More than I expected. He gave a small, sad smile. I didn't think it would hurt this quietly. Ariel looked toward the trees. Pain doesn't always scream. Behind them, raised voices echoed briefly, then faded. Malik leaned against the railing. What happens now? Ariel answered without hesitation. Now I choose myself. Inside, Darius and Simone continued arguing in low tones. Ariel turned back once more before leaving. Darius, she called softly. He stepped toward the doorway. Yes. She looked at him carefully, memorizing the man she once loved. I hope one day you understand what you lost. He swallowed hard. You're really walking away? I already did, she replied. Malik opened his car door for her. As they drove away, neither spoke for several minutes. Finally Malik said, I don't know what my marriage looks like after tonight. Ariel stared at the darkening sky. Mine doesn't exist anymore. Yet somehow, she felt lighter. Over the next few weeks, Ariel moved swiftly. Papers were filed. Assets divided. Darius didn't contest much. Guilt had drained his fight. Their friends were shocked but respectful. "Are you sure?" her sister Naomi asked one evening. Ariel nodded firmly. "I'm sure of my peace." Meanwhile, Malik kept his distance from Simone, processing the pregnancy carefully. He called Ariel once. "I'm trying to decide if forgiveness is strength or weakness," he admitted. Ariel answered thoughtfully, "Forgiveness is personal. Staying is optional." Malik was quiet for a moment. "Thank you," he said softly. They hung up, not as lovers, but as two people who had survived something brutal together. 6 months later, Ariel stood on the balcony of her new townhouse in Port Townsend. The ocean wind brushed gently against her face. She had left her corporate job and started working as an independent financial consultant, setting her own hours. Peace had replaced anxiety. One afternoon, she ran into Darius at a charity gala in Seattle. He looked thinner, humbled. "Ariel," he said quietly. She smiled politely. "Hello, Darius." He hesitated. "I'm sorry." She nodded once. "I know." There was no bitterness left in her voice. Just closure. As she walked away, she realized something powerful. She hadn't just ended a marriage. She had reclaimed her life. Ariel's new routine felt unfamiliar at first. The quiet mornings in Port Townsend replaced the rushed traffic of Seattle. She began waking before sunrise, wrapping herself in a soft gray robe and carrying tea onto her small balcony. The ocean stretched endlessly before her, calm and steady. "This is mine," she whispered one morning, letting the words settle. There were no hidden phones, no late-night excuses, no second-guessing her intuition. She started journaling again, something she had abandoned during her marriage. On one page she wrote, "Trust yourself sooner." The divorce had not destroyed her. It had clarified her. For the first time in years, she felt anchored to herself instead of to someone else's unpredictable choices. Work shifted too. Ariel transitioned from corporate leadership into independent financial consulting. Her first client was a recently divorced woman named Denise. "I don't even know where to start," Denise admitted, wringing her hands. Ariel smiled gently. "You start with what's yours." She walked Denise through budgeting, asset protection, and credit rebuilding. But more than numbers, she offered reassurance. "You are not ruined," Ariel said firmly. Word spread quickly. Soon, more women sought her guidance. They didn't just want financial advice. They wanted stability. Ariel realized her pain had given her a new language, one built on resilience. She was no longer managing someone else's empire. She was building her own. One evening, her sister Naomi visited. They sat in the kitchen eating takeout and laughing softly. "Do you miss him?" Naomi asked carefully. Ariel paused before answering. "I miss who I thought he was." Naomi nodded. "That's different." Ariel leaned back in her chair. "I don't miss the lies. I don't miss doubting myself." Naomi studied her closely. "You're different." Ariel smiled. "I am." The transformation wasn't loud or dramatic. It was steady, the kind that settles in your bones. Later that night, Ariel stood by the window watching the moon reflect on the water. She felt no urge to text Darius. That silence was proof of healing. Meanwhile, Malik faced his own reckoning. Simone gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Amara. Malik stood beside her in the hospital room, conflicted but present. "She's beautiful," Simone whispered. Malik nodded slowly. "She deserves honesty." Their marriage remained fragile, but they agreed to try counseling. One afternoon, Malik called Ariel. "She's here," he said softly. Ariel smiled through the phone. "Congratulations." There was no bitterness in her tone. "Are you okay?" he asked. Ariel looked out at the ocean again. "I'm more than okay." Malik hesitated. "You helped me see clearly." She replied gently, "We helped each other survive." They ended the call warmly, grounded in mutual respect. Months passed, and Ariel felt curiosity about love again. Not urgency, just curiosity. At a local bookstore cafe, she struck up a conversation with a man named Julian Brooks, a high school literature teacher. He noticed the financial planning book in her hand. "Heavy reading," he joked lightly. She laughed. "Occupational hazard." They spoke about novels, travel dreams, and favorite cities. Julian listened attentively, without interruption or pretense. When he asked for her number, Ariel paused briefly. Then she handed it to him. That night, she smiled to herself. This felt different. No secrecy. No thrill built on risk. Just conversation and possibility. Their first date was simple: coffee and a long walk along the water. "Tell me something people misunderstand about you," Julian asked. Ariel considered carefully. "They think I'm cold because I'm analytical," she said. "But I feel deeply. I just don't perform it." Julian nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. He didn't rush her. He didn't probe for vulnerability before she offered it. At the end of the evening, he said gently, "I'd like to see you again." Ariel smiled. "I'd like that too." As she drove home, she realized she wasn't afraid. She wasn't comparing him to Darius. She was simply present. One afternoon months later, Ariel ran into Darius again at a professional networking event. He looked older, quieter. "I hear you're doing well," he said awkwardly. "I am," she answered calmly. He shifted uncomfortably. "I think about what happened." Ariel studied him. "I hope you learned from it." He nodded slowly. "I did." She saw no resentment in herself, only distance. "Take care, Darius," she said politely. As she walked away, she felt no sting. Only gratitude for the strength she had built. Some endings are necessary. Not cruel, necessary. Later that week, Ariel told Julian about her past. They sat on her balcony under a soft gray sky. "He cheated," she said plainly. Julian listened without interruption. "That must have hurt," he replied gently. "It did," she admitted. "But it also forced me to choose myself." Julian reached for her hand slowly. "You deserved better." She squeezed his fingers lightly. "I know." There was no rush to define what they were. No pressure to rewrite the future. Just honesty. For Ariel, that was enough. As the seasons shifted, Ariel continued building her life intentionally. She planted lavender on her balcony and started drafting a short guide for divorced women navigating financial independence. Naomi read an early draft. "You sound strong," she observed. Ariel smiled. "I am strong." The difference now was that her strength wasn't defensive. It was calm. She no longer carried anger like armor. She carried clarity. The lake house confrontation felt like another lifetime. Pain had once defined her days. Now peace did. One evening, Ariel stood at the shoreline watching the sun sink slowly beneath the horizon. Julian stood beside her quietly. "Regret anything?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "No. Every mistake taught me something." He nodded. "That's rare." She looked out at the water again. "People come into our lives for reasons," she said thoughtfully. "Some stay. Some teach." Julian squeezed her hand gently. Ariel realized something powerful in that moment. She hadn't just survived betrayal. She had rebuilt herself from it. And this time, her life belonged entirely to her. Spring arrived quietly in Port Townsend. Ariel noticed how different this season felt compared to the year before. There were no suspicious texts, no hollow apologies echoing through her home. Instead, there were open windows and ocean air drifting through clean rooms. One morning, Julian brought fresh pastries and knocked gently on her door. "Breakfast delivery," he called playfully. Ariel laughed as she let him in. "You're setting a dangerous standard," she teased. He grinned. "I prefer consistency." The word lingered with her. Consistency. It was something she once begged for without realizing it. Now, it showed up naturally. No secrecy. No tension. Just steady presence. Meanwhile, Malik and Simone continued navigating their fragile reconciliation. Counseling was not easy, but they showed up. One afternoon, Malik texted Ariel a photo of baby Amara smiling. "She rolled over today," he wrote. Ariel smiled warmly at the image. She felt no resentment, only quiet acceptance. Later that week, Malik called. "We're trying," he admitted. Ariel responded gently, "Trying is honest." He sighed. "I learned the hard way that honesty should have come first." Ariel understood that truth deeply. Though their paths had separated, she respected the effort. Not all relationships end. Some rebuild, slowly and carefully. At work, Ariel hosted a small financial empowerment workshop for women rebuilding after divorce. The room was full, eyes attentive. "Your independence isn't punishment," she told them firmly. "It's protection." A woman in the front row raised her hand. "How do you stop blaming yourself?" Ariel paused thoughtfully. "You remember that betrayal is a choice someone else made." The room fell silent, absorbing her words. Ariel wasn't speaking from theory. She was speaking from lived truth. After the session, several women hugged her. "You gave me hope," one whispered. Ariel drove home feeling purposeful. Her pain had transformed into guidance. One evening, Julian asked a careful question as they cooked dinner together. "Do you think you'll ever fully trust again?" Ariel stirred the sauce slowly before answering. "Trust isn't automatic anymore," she said honestly. "But it's possible." Julian nodded. "That's fair." He didn't rush her response or demand reassurance. Instead, he kissed her forehead gently. "I'll earn it," he said softly. The simplicity of that promise meant more than grand declarations ever had. Ariel realized something profound. Healthy love doesn't argue for space. It shows up patiently and waits. Months later, Ariel received a letter in the mail. It was from Darius. She stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside, he had written simply, "I finally understand what I destroyed. I hope you found happiness." Ariel folded the letter carefully. She didn't feel anger. She didn't feel longing. She felt closure. That night, she placed the letter in a drawer and closed it without ceremony. Some apologies come too late to repair damage, but they still mark growth. Ariel whispered softly to herself, "I forgive you." Not for him, but for her own peace. As summer approached, Julian invited Ariel on a weekend trip to the Oregon coast. Standing by the cliffs, wind sweeping around them, he said gently, "You deserve joy without fear." Ariel smiled. "I'm learning that." He looked at her seriously. "I care about you, Ariel." She met his gaze steadily. "I care about you too." The words felt natural, not forced. For the first time in years, love didn't feel like something she had to manage or defend. It felt mutual, balanced, real. Back in Seattle, Darius occasionally saw updates about Ariel's growing consulting business. He recognized her strength more clearly from a distance than he ever had up close. One evening, he confided in a colleague, "I lost someone extraordinary." It was not self-pity. It was realization. His career had stalled somewhat, and he now understood how much Ariel's discipline and structure had stabilized his life. Regret had settled in him quietly. But Ariel no longer carried his mistakes. She had handed them back. Malik sent one final message months later. "Thank you for choosing dignity that night. It saved us from something worse." Ariel responded simply, "We both chose truth." That lake house confrontation no longer replayed painfully in her mind. It had become a turning point instead of a wound. She sometimes thought about how close she came to ignoring her instincts that morning in the bathroom. If she had, she might still be living in uncertainty. Instead, she chose courage. And courage had rewarded her with clarity. One quiet Sunday morning, Ariel sat on her balcony again, journal open in her lap. Julian was inside making coffee. The ocean shimmered under soft sunlight. She reflected on the woman she used to be, cautious, accommodating, afraid to disturb peace. Now she understood something deeper. Peace built on silence is not peace at all. Real peace requires truth. She closed her journal and smiled softly. She had walked through betrayal without becoming bitter. She had rebuilt without becoming hardened. That was her victory. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Julian joined her outside. "What are you thinking about?" he asked gently. Ariel leaned against him and answered honestly, "How grateful I am that I walked away when I did." He squeezed her hand. "That took strength." She nodded. "It took self-respect." The ocean breeze carried the last light of day across the water. Ariel understood now that loss had not been the end of her story. It had been the beginning of her reclamation. She had chosen herself, and that choice had changed everything. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel.